Vanity Fair's Gabe Sherman reports that the McGahn news may have motivated the president's increasingly unhinged behavior of late, noting a lot of what Trump is doing is based on the fact that Mueller is going after Don Jr. A person close to the Trump family told me they're squeezing Don Jr. right now. So it's all happening at once right now. From where I'm joined by the great Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for the USA Today, Brett Stevens, columnist for the New York Times, Vivian Salama, White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and Dana Milbank, columnist for the Washington Post. So we've got a heavyweight gang here. I'm going to start with Brett, though. Brett, you said something here. You just tweeted this out in the modern means of communication. I've been skeptical about the wisdom and merit of impeachment. Cohen's guilty plea changes that. The president is clearly guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. He should resign his office or be impeached and removed from office. Do you want to elaborate on that rather dramatic final statement of yours on the guilt of the president?
Well, I think it's difficult to reach any other conclusion. You know, for a long time, I have wondered whether the evidence of conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia would be so clear, so black letter, as it were, that it could rise politically to the level of impeachment, and that it could convince a critical mass of Republican lawmakers to impeach and then, of course, convict the president. But I think the Cohen story is in a different league altogether. This is a clear black letter violation of campaign finance laws. We have powerful evidence that the president was aware of these payments, and that later, as president, he suppressed information about the payments until the Wall Street Journal, to its great credit, broke the Stormy Daniels story earlier this year. Now, you can make an argument that these campaign finance laws are vague or badly worded, but then again, they were used for the prosecution of a former vice presidential nominee and Senator John Edwards in a strikingly similar case. So I think Republicans ought to be asking themselves in a serious way if they believe in the rule of law and the separation of powers, which, as I remember, are core conservative principles. Yeah. They ought to be considering impeachment as the constitutional mechanism to remove an unfit president who is committed or seems to have committed criminal acts.
Of course, we didn't get a conviction in the John Edwards case involving the contribution from Bunny Mellon, and she gave money, which I talked to her, interviewed about. She said she didn't think it was for a campaign purpose, but clearly a lot of people in the jury did. Let me ask you about the interpretation here. Did you find convincing, apparently you did, the sworn testimony that's apparently going to be forthcoming from Michael Cohen, that the president not only approved the payment of the $150,000 to Ms. McDougal and the $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, Stephanie Clifford, but that he did so as a purposeful, deliberate, knowing campaign contribution. Talk about that, because that's where it really gets into the law here and the criminality.
You know, the president is known for stiffing all sorts of people. The fact that this payment took place so close to the election, along with the fact that we have a recording which seems to indicate the president's knowledge that he was committing a criminal act, therefore the payments in cash and the elaborate methods to disguise the payment, all suggest to me criminal intent. Now, remember, we're not going, if in the event of impeachment, the standards are political. Ultimately, the jury is the Senate. We're not talking about a case that would stand or fall before a jury. But the weight of evidence seems clearly to suggest that the president knew exactly what he was doing. By the way, it's worth remembering that back in 2000, Bush nearly lost the election on account of a DUI. This is yes. Essentially similar behavior. Can I get to a really
tough question for you? This may hit you in the solar plexus, but do you believe the Republican Party of 2018 is willing to do what the Republican Party back in 1974 was willing to do with Nixon? Act on the evidence. Do you have confidence that the Republican Party, the grand old party, will look at evidence like this and consider it, or will they do what they've been doing all along, this sort of goose-stepping to Trump? It's awful what they use it, but they've been doing it. They've done whatever he says, they've accepted as an order. Will they change from taking orders from Trump in this regimental manner, or will they actually look at evidence the way at least Republicans did in '74? Your thoughts?
I doubt it. Where's our Howard Baker to go to the president? Where's our George H.W. Bush, who was then head of the RNC?
Thank you. Well, the trouble is you've said something really dramatic about you think he ought to be impeached, and then you've told me a really desultory notion it won't do any good.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.